Please, let's get loud for our next storyteller, Bryan, everybody!
Hi. All right, so when I feel lonely, I go for long walks. And my first year in Los Angeles, I walked so much that I had to resole my shoes 2 different times. LA felt so foreign to me. It's a tough city, and back in Chicago, I knew tons of people, and out here, I knew hardly anyone. And I missed humans. And what made my day-to-day even harder was that I worked from home, writing medical brochures about diabetes and catheters. And some days my biggest human interaction would be when I would hear my very loud Armenian neighbors screaming through the walls. I didn't know if they were fighting or celebrating. And so I was just in this island in my apartment. And when my landlord dropped off my lease to be renewed for the following year, I was hesitant. I felt like I needed a sign, some sort of human connection to convince me to stay, to show me that LA, wasn't so foreign. And so I set the lease aside, and I went to work from a coffee shop for the day. And at the coffee shop, I tried to engage with the barista. And I said, hey man, what kind of pastry is your favorite? And he just stared at me. He gave me no response. And so I picked out a croissant that sucked, and I sat down next to this woman on her laptop. And when I asked if I could share her electrical outlet with her, it was like I was asking her for a kidney or something. There was so much disdain, and it was then and there I decided that I was done. I was done with Los Angeles. And so for the rest of the day, I just sat in silence, and I wrote about how catheters can cause bacterial infections. And doing a few hours of that reminded me that I was out of shower soap at home. And so that evening, I packed up and I walked over to Albertsons, and Albertsons was slammed. Everybody in Los Feliz was there shopping at the same time, and it was so crowded. It took me so long to even get back to where the soap was that by the time I did, I was really fed up, and I decided that I deserved a treat, damn it. And so I picked up some chocolate milk because I'm an adult, and I went to the checkout line. I set down the soap next to the chocolate milk, and this woman in front of me who had really big hair turned and looked back at me, and she scoffed. She gave me a dirty look, and I knew why. Clearly, it's because if you buy one item, that's an errand, right? But if you buy 2 items, everybody assumes you're somehow going to use just those 2 items concurrently. And she gave me this real nasty look, like she just knew I was going to go home and drink the milk when I was all lathered up in the shower like a pervert. And so I just pushed her out of my mind, and I focused on how I was going to pack up my apartment. But that's when someone behind me tapped me on the shoulder. And I turned around, and it was the oldest woman in Los Angeles. She had this face like a dried apple, and she was wearing a plastic babushka, even though it hadn't rained in like months. And she was saying something I really couldn't make out as she was unloading vegetables that I'd never even seen before onto the conveyor belt. And I thought she was a crazy person. That's fine. And there's a businessman in line behind her, and I tried to engage with him. And I gave him a look that said, this lady, am I right? And he gave me no response. He gave me the old barista treatment. And so before I turned away from her, I kind of realized, here's a human who wants to interact with you. And, beggars can't be choosers. Maybe she's not crazy. So I said, excuse me, ma'am? And she was saying, how do you cook the dinosaurs? And I thought, damn it, But she wasn't saying cook, it was cook. So it was, how do you cook the dinosaurs? And then she continued, and she said, if my grandchildren do not want, I do not want to waste. And from her cart, she pulled out a small plush stegosaurus and a small plush Tyrannosaurus Rex that she had gotten in the toy aisle. She set them down to her vegetables, and she said, so how do you cook? And she wasn't crazy. She was the most adorable woman in Los Angeles. And I said, you know what, ma'am? Normally, I broil my brontosaurus. And she let out this great laugh that sounded like clucking. But that's when it happened. The big-haired woman in front of me leaned in, and she said, last week, Velociraptor was on special. It was delicious. So the 3 of us are enjoying this wonderful moment of humanity out of nowhere, and then the businessman gets in on it, and the businessman says, normally I deep fry my dinosaurs, even though I know it isn't good for me. And the four of us are just in it, and it's amazing, and it's lovely. And then the cashier cleared his throat because the big-haired woman had to pay. We all snapped to attention. Our fun was over. But then the cashier leaned across the conveyor belt, and he said, Albertsons has the tastiest brand of dinosaur because the Albertsons brand of dinosaur comes with its own stuffing. And everyone broke out in these smiles. And so the big-haired woman paid, and she went on her way, and then I paid for my milk and my soap that I wasn't going to do anything perverted with. And I turned to the old woman, and I said, I really hope you enjoy your dinosaurs if your grandchildren don't. And she beamed. And I left there feeling a part of something larger. Because this human connection, it's all around us. It's even when we're not looking for it, and it's even in these seemingly insignificant moments. It's even in Albertsons. It's even in Los Angeles, which didn't suddenly seem so foreign. And so when I got home, I took a shower with soap. And then afterwards, I poured myself a big glass of chocolate milk. And then I sat down, and I re-signed my lease. Thanks.
Let's hear it for Bryan. Nice story from Bryan. He's in an improv group with those three people. They're called the Albertsons in Los Feliz. Check them out at UCB. They're great. Good story.